Welcome to the Latte Lounge podcast. Join me, your host, Katie Taylor, as we talk balancing hormones, busting myths, breaking taboos, boosting libidos, and bolstering confidence. Why not grab a coffee or go for a walk and join us in the Latte Lounge as we chat all things midlife, menopause, and beyond. With thanks to our friends at Silk Natural Lubricant for making this podcast possible. In this episode, we're talking about relationships, and I'm so pleased to be joined by fitness coach and presenter Marvin Ambrosius and his wife Stephanie, an experienced individual and relationship therapist. With the average age of divorce in this country being 45 to 55, we're going to be exploring all of the challenges that come with relationships in midlife and tips on how to navigate through these to build stronger relationships with our loved ones. From the impact of perimenopause and menopause on relationships, how to prioritise a relationship amongst the juggle of work and parents and kids, as well as through life. And we'll also be looking at how men and women approach this phase of life differently and why communication really is key. Stephanie is a relationship therapist with over 14 years of experience. After growing up in an environment where marriage appeared to be very hard work, Stephanie became motivated to want to help people to find happiness, both within themselves and also with their partners. She currently works with individual adults and couples at all stages of a relationship. Joining Stephanie is her husband, personal trainer and fitness presenter Marvin Ambrosius. You may know Marvin from the hit ITV television series Eat, Shop, Save and Sky TVs Fit in 5 series. It was his own personal battle with losing weight that inspired him to help individuals with limited time in their day to still be able to work out and move closer towards their fitness goals. So welcome, Marvin and Stephanie. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Happy to be here.
Look, now let's start with, I guess, a bit of a sort of scene setter, which I hope will help our listeners really identify with what we're talking about today. So I thought I'd turn to Stephanie first and ask you whether you could maybe sort of talk us through some of the common challenges that you see within relationships, particularly in couples in their 40s.
Yeah, so a lot of people come presenting various things, really. So rejection, low libido, loss of interest in their partner, poor communication. The person who I met originally isn't the person who I'm with now. So, their needs have changed, relationship needs have changed, focus has changed. Lack of self-esteem. So it comes up in many areas, and so I'll let you carry on.
And I think it's funny, isn't it? Because it was not funny, it's pretty tragic, but we're the sandwich generation. We're often juggling whether it's kids or aging parents, and often our relationships are neglected because you've got this massive pressure in it, whether it's a financial pressure or you're sort of stuck in a rut with your partner, perhaps you're growing apart, and I think menopause and perimenopause. I mean, it hit me when I was 43, which was totally out the blue. People think it's when you're in your 50s. And I think, all those pressures coming together, plus all the sort of hormones, it can have a massive effect, can't it, on our mood, on our confidence, on our libido. So, do you ever talk about sort of the hormonal impact when you have clients, in front of you?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I suppose the sandwich generation is quite a good example to use when we're talking about it, because we're looking at, watching your parent and maybe what they faced during menopause. So your mother during menopause, your father during your mother's menopause, and really learning from that. And then you have your children watching you go through it as well. So how do you communicate that to them? The younger ones, it's a bit hard, but with the older children, or we're talking about the boomerang kids, which, they've left home now they've come back with, their families, or, as young adults, really teaching them about it as well, so that they're more informed when they go through it or their partner goes through it.
And just to piggyback on that, it's seeing a different version of the other person. a partner obviously in that situation has been with the same person for such a long time, but during this menopausal period, they're now seeing someone that they don't know. And then it's kind of understanding and communicating what's happening, and to know that this is just a part of what's going on, but it's supporting that and understanding how to support that. And that's why systemically these things come hand in hand, wherever it's physical and working out and things like that, and just doing things that kind of center yourself in meditation and through therapy as well. And that's why Steph has been so successful with speaking to people and combining the two together.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you mentioned that, Marvin, because I think men are so often left out of this conversation, aren't they? I mean, remember, my husband sort of didn't recognize me. You know, I'd gone from being this bubbly, capable, outgoing woman to a shell of a woman who didn't leave the house, was a hermit, lost confidence, just lost all interest in life. And I think it can be hard for the man to think, well, is it me? Does she not fancy me anymore? You know, if I, you know, and so, you know, I think, let's talk a little bit about communication. Like, what would you say? I mean, this is a question to both of you, really. When you've got, you know, a couple in front of you, or even just, you know, maybe the male partner, what would you say to them? I mean, do they even understand? Do you understand, Marvin, about the impact of low estrogen and testosterone and progesterone in a female partner?
Yeah, 100%. One thing that's been renowned in clients that I've had is that you were speaking about low libido, things like that, and exercise releases endorphins, good endorphins, and anything that makes you feel good about yourself automatically transpires in you feeling good about something else. So if you're doing something and changing yourself or feeling good, other people recognize that. And if your partner's recognizing that, that's then bringing compliments. Everybody loves compliments. Like, it doesn't matter. Even if you feel bad about yourself and you continue to get compliments, it's going to have a positive effect on you. And it means you're doing something for yourself. So I've seen a massive change in client shift. As you said, I've entered into that 40s. I remember started training people in their 20s and 30s, but now I'm training more people that are going into this stage of their life and phase in their life where they're seeing those changes, and we're balancing those changes within relationship, understanding yourself, what you need to do to communicate that to your partner. So in some ways I've kind of turned into a counselor through Steph in physical fitness, because I'm learning things that are coming from Steph, but then I'm also recognizing things in myself that I see at home that they're talking about. So I'm like, okay, that's what they're feeling, but actually this is what I need to be doing to support that. So it's kind of, it's a learning curve, but I've realized everybody's different. Like you said, you went internal and became an introvert and you were an extrovert, whereas some people might go the complete opposite way. They might just go, because they think they're recognizing something that's different, they might just go the opposite of who they are, or be an enhanced version of themselves, even worse, and we don't recognize that. But yeah
And just to add to that, communication all the way, I always say, anyway, with relationships with anyone, be it your children, at work, with your partner, with your friends. So, you know, when you're facing any of these symptoms, it's best to talk about it. I love when I get young couples and, you know, they're not going through any perimenopause or anything, and we start off by talking about discussing your menstrual cycle, you know, and a lot of my partners have got in their diary their partner's menstrual cycle, or on the calendar or whatever, so that they know that this is the period of the month where I've got to be a little bit more sensitive, not take things personally, you know that she, you know, her mood might fluctuate, know that sex might be off the cards for that week, or you know, or on the cards, you know, we just do it in a different way, or whatever it is. So, you know, we start off like that. So with the couples that haven't had that pre-communication, it is difficult to sort of just start that communication now because they're not used to it. But it's definitely something that, you know, everyone seems willing to do if they want to support their partner. But it does take, you know, I suppose our culture has changed a bit now. Menopause isn't as taboo anymore, so there's more information out there and we talk about it a bit more now. But people still feel a bit guarded about it. You know, some women don't really want to admit to the fact that they're at that stage of life because it's scary, isn't it?
It's a big thing to admit when you think of it.
Yeah,
it's huge, it's massive. Like, to even talking about it now, when we speak about like when Sky was born, and thinking of that time, our son Sky, and he's now 18, and just looking at that shift of when we were near enough close to his age, and now we're like double, and we're moving into a different phase of our lives, and we're speaking to people. And I've realized that when you're getting a form and you're filling it out, and then you're in a different bracket, and you're like, okay, and you're thinking, okay, so I'm now part of this group, and do I have to forget about that group, or can I still dip into this group of the 25s to 35s, or am I now just 35 to 45? Like, you don't really know. So you're trying to kind of find where you fit in within that, not just in your relationship, but in yourself. So it's a constant growth. Like, I've realized now, I say to my son and my daughter all the time, adults are just grown up children. Like, that's all we are. We're still children, and we're still growing up, and we're just pretending to be adults. That's all we're doing. So we're still navigating whilst raising you. Yeah. So just know this, we're going to make mistakes.
I love that. That's so true. I mean, I've got a house full of teenagers and young 20s something. So, and I think they think I'm this sort of old bag that doesn't know what they're going through. And I'm like, I've been there. I know what you're going through. But there's also the embarrassment factor, isn't there? I mean, we've talked a lot about women and feeling really embarrassed about whether it's periods or hot flushes or just low mood, or even talking about it. But I assume it's even worse for men, isn't it? Because, potentially there could be problems like whether it's impotency or erectile dysfunction, or even just that pressure of staying in a job you hate, but feeling, well, I can't actually admit to anyone that I'm unhappy. So, I mean, what are some of the tools you use for getting men to open up more? Because I think women are quite good, aren't they? I mean, without generalizing, we are a little bit better at talking about pretty much everything.
Sometimes.
Maybe I'm generalizing. I know I am.
Yeah, everyone's different. But first of all, it's about identifying that in yourself. So really trying to reflect and really thinking about where some of your sadness or your self-confidence, lack of self-confidence, or comes from. Where is it coming from? What are you feeling? What are you going through? Is it just to do with the relationship? Is it to do with work as well? Is it to do with family pressures, financial pressures? All of that can cause erectile dysfunction. All of that can cause low mood, low self-esteem. And, so really reflecting and then communicating. It's harder for some than others, but, it's all about the listener as well. So you base your communication on experience, don't you? So if you feel that when I've said something to someone, they've shut me down, then you're not going to try it again because of the fear of rejection. So I think the biggest thing for both partners is to really listen to each other, listen to your partner, knowing that they own that emotion, and and never coming back with oh, you'll get over it, or it's not so bad, or everyone else goes through it. Never what's the word? Minimize what they're saying. Really take it as their problem. Your partners, you're in it together. What can I do to support you with it? Because maybe your partner hasn't got the solution. I'm feeling like this and I need this from you. Sometimes it's a discussion and you decide together how you can support. So yeah, communication on both sides is very important.
Yeah. Well, as a man, and working with a lot of men, men are very guarded, and men like to automatically feel like they're in control and have everything in control. And the problem with that is you're just basically putting more weight on your back. You're adding more pressure. And then when one thing falls apart, everything falls apart. And having to tell the people that you're supporting, or you feel like you are their support system, that you're falling apart, is another reason to fall apart, because you're not telling them you're falling apart. And it just gets worse and worse. And that's why we've seen such an increase in suicides of men between the ages of 35 and 55. And that's just because they're just internalizing everything, thinking they've got to hold the fort, when actually just talk to the closest people you know. It's not embarrassing, but again, something that you just pointed out, sometimes we're in relationships with people where no matter what you say to reach out, their automatic response is going to be, oh, you'll get over it. And they don't realize that if somebody's going to tell you that I'm struggling right now, take it seriously. It could be really small. It could be the smallest problem, and it's actually the biggest problem to that person. So I think it's really important that people start to just recognize within themselves and their relationships that actually they've never actually said this before. Maybe I need to really support this, because men especially, if they're saying something they've never said and it's out the blue, really pay attention, because it took a lot to say it. I'm very heart on my sleeve. I probably wear my heart too much on my sleeve, but it's something that we've always had. Like, I just kind of just say it how it is. Steph tells me how it is. Sometimes it's so brutal in things that Steph will say to me. I had to get used to it when we first got together, because I wasn't used to the honesty, because a lot of my family growing up, people weren't brutally honest. They would hold back and not tell us everything, and kind of you'd hear trickles of it later on, but it wasn't what you needed to hear at that time. Whereas in our relationship, what I noticed, it was pretty much the first day Steph didn't like something, she would tell me, and that was new to me. It took me years to learn and master the skill of saying, I don't like that, because I just kind of just let you get on with it and then go, I didn't like that, but it's okay. Yeah. But not realizing that's actually, you're adding like a number of things that you don't like in your relationship, and you're actually building a building block of negatives without realizing that if you address an issue immediately, there's no longer a problem. So, and I think that's the communication factor you were talking about.
So my reason for this, so I've got to back myself up here. My reason
it's a good thing.
for this is that when I was at school, my grandma taught me to scream if I'm happy, scream if I'm sad. And, you know, if not just when you're sad. So if things are going right, maximize, tell the person that you're happy about something. I like that. I want more of that. You know, if you're feeling great. So in this situation, you know, when talking about menopause, in terms of, say, sex and libido, if you feel like you can, then do it, because you know there are times where you feel like you can't. So, you know, and if you feel that things are good and you are on a high mood, then communicate that, because you know when things are low, sometimes you might be a bit quieter, be a bit less expressive, and, you know, so maximize on it. So, you know, so there is a balance, because some people only scream when it's bad, and that's not going to, it's not right, is it? It's not going to help the relationship at all.
And I think that's, your grandma, you know, hit the nail on the head, which is unusual for that generation, because I think we've got better, haven't we, over the years? But you're so right. We always say when we're miserable, and we always put people down, you know, because we're picking. But it doesn't take much to actually say, oh, you look lovely today, you know, just something quite positive. And I think, look, there's probably a lot of people listening now who just wouldn't even know where to start when it comes to talking to their partner, you know. And also we must talk about same-sex couples as well, because you know, it's really important. If you've got two women in a relationship who are both on their periods, maybe at the same time or different times, you can spend a whole, possibly a whole month where you're just between the two of you not in a good place. So you know, do you have any sort of strategies? Is it better to take it out the house, or just put some time aside? Perhaps, you know, if there are kids around, it can be impossible, can't it, to find that time to even have a chat?
Yeah, it's really important to find that time. And some people say that they prefer, you know, going to a restaurant and talking about their problems there, because at least then it's manageable. They can't raise their voice. There's other people around. Personally, I would say at home, if you can find the time, once the children are asleep, and, you know, sometimes it's difficult. You just need to say something when you need to say it, don't you? So if other people are around, then you can edit it. But, you know, I've heard walks in the park and things like that are very helpful for people, because people tend to express when they're out there in the open air with nature. They can think while they talk, which really help people. But yeah, it's very important to find that quality time to do that, but very hard to get that quality time at the moment. Something that comes up with menopause as well is, you know, perimenopause, just feeling very tired, women feeling very tired, very lethargic. And a lot of couples say, right, we've tried to have some quality time and watch a movie together or have a conversation, but she's fallen asleep. You know, and or I can't sleep at all. So he goes to bed early and I'm up pottering around and I just can't sleep. So there's that as well. So it's finding the right time to have that quality time. It's very important. And something that I wanted to pick up on from what Marvin and you were saying before was a lot of the conversation about menopause and just about communicating in general is completely different for all couples based on cultural differences as well, and culture where they, their original culture. So how my grandparents maybe didn't communicate about menopause may trickle down to how my parents communicated about it and how we do. So it's about changing that culture if you can, for your, because you develop your own culture in your nuclear family and with your partner, and you develop a new sort of views, values, beliefs, so you can really work that into your relationship and what you would like that to look like.
I'm really pleased you picked up on that, because the Black and Asian communities and the Jewish community where I'm from, so many women I've heard from in our Facebook group, it's just not the talked about thing, and also experiences are very different. So how perimenopause and menopause may affect, say, your hair and skin from different communities,
yes.
Is different. It will be need to be sort of discussed in a different way. And I think the most sort of taboo part of perimenopause and menopause is things like vaginal dryness and vaginal atrophy, where there is absolutely no estrogen and sex is painful, but they are so embarrassed to even mention it to the husband. They'd rather just put up with it and either just go ahead and be in pain and just accept it, or just totally go just no sex. And that's devastating. So I think although these are embarrassing and quite awkward conversations to have, it's so important to be as open as we can.
Sorry to cut you. Sex is such a for a lot of couples it's such a hard conversation to have, but when it comes down to that feeling of discomfort and then which leads on to the feeling of rejection or just the fear, just worrying about starting anything, so that communication breaks down, because some will say, we'll be on the sofa watching a movie, they'll snuggle into me and I'll feel that I can't snuggle because that's giving the wrong impression. I'm giving mixed signals, because then he's going to think tonight's the night. If he thinks tonight's the night, then oh my goodness, what if it hurts? And what if it's not comfortable? How do I then say no? And so they have to really have this conversation. It's not you I'm rejecting, I'm still attracted to you, I still love you, I still desire you, but it's painful, or it's just something that I can't commit to right now. And later on, couples tend to find that they have less sex, but sometimes sex is still on the cards. They have sex differently, so there are other things that you can do. You might not just have intercourse. There's other things you can do and other things that you can explore and find, which could be quite exciting, which is always quite exciting.
It should be.
And some couples, my elderly couples, some decide, okay, well, we bond in so many other ways, we find happiness in so many other ways, that actually we don't need to have sex, because we make love in all different ways, by laughing together, by sharing time together, by playing games together, dancing together. We've got such great history together that's what bonds us.
Oh, that's a lovely thought. Now, Marvin, going back to tools and strategies for couples, how does, fitness is a big part of your world, obviously. How does fitness play a part in relationships? And is it about sort of giving you that sense of well-being and confidence, self-esteem, which kind of in turn will then, help the relationship, I guess? Or do you feel it's just there's a lot more there?
There's definitely layers to how you feel about yourself, to how you display who you are to your partner. It's really important that you kind of discover your true happiness, because one thing that I've realized, the reflection of your outer self isn't actually the reflection of how you're feeling. So one thing that I've always realized and started from the tools that I give clients and people that I work with is You need to be 100% happy with yourself today to work on a better version of yourself tomorrow. And I've always stood by that. And that's because anything can happen between now and tomorrow. So whatever's happening, make sure you're happy, because you're here to make a change and do something. So if you're going to make the changes, start it now. But the thing that I've realized that really is the strategy to having a complete guide to feeling good about yourself is a routine. And finding a routine that you know is not dedicated to making someone else like you better or look good. It's to feel good. So it's releasing that energy, those endorphins. I always say it's like going to a comedy club, fitness, because if you go to a comedy club, when you walk in there, you're automatically telling yourself that I'm coming here to laugh and have a good time. And exercise is exactly the same principle. The moment you tell your body you are going somewhere to improve, build your cardiovascular, help your muscles, like bone density, we do weights and resistance. And that's something that I say to everyone. If you go into your 40s, you need to do resistance and weight training, because your bones get brittle. And that's why when you hear about elder people falling over and they break something, it's because your bones are more brittle. It's easy to break them. So what we're doing is you start that resistance training. But most importantly, again, coming back to what I was saying, it's to build a routine and do something that you know that's going to make you feel better. So walking into a gym, or even creating a gym environment at home, you know you're doing something to better yourself. And for your partner, it just automatically complements each other, because if you're feeling better about yourself, you feel better in your relationship. But if you're both doing it together, it's even more, it's unbelievable, because you are now both on a high about not only that you're changing in terms of your physical appearance, but you're feeling better, and that automatically increases your libido as well. It just does. And what you do then is you just kind of come together and you just have a routine of wanting to do it all the time, and it becomes a part of your lifestyle. But again, it's not the fix, I always say, that people think it is, because again, you have to work on the person you are, starting that journey from the beginning to work out who you're going to be, because you could get the perfect body, but it doesn't mean say you can have the perfect mind. So you've got to kind of holistically work in every direction. That's why the focus on counseling and therapy and fitness at the same time, it works together, because I have about 5 different versions of myself, and with those versions comes, one of them can have a bit less confidence, one's too confident, one has confidence, and then it just depends on the balance. So I try and structure a balance that I can actually say, whichever one it's going to be, I'm going to be happy.
Yeah. I love the idea. It's funny because I've never worked out with my husband except during lockdown, where we had to, do some exercise we laid it all out in the bedroom, and it was the first time we'd ever done it. And actually we ended up pissing ourselves laughing every single day, because he was so bad and I wasn't much better, but but actually it was so good for our we're also talking while we were doing it, and it became quite a fun thing. And then it was, and you talk about walking, we'll often walk the dog together, and it's the best time to talk about any problems we've got or stuff on our mind, because you're not, I know you've got a 18-year-old son. I have 2. I've got 3 boys. I often find with boys and a lot of men, they don't like that direct eye contact when they're talking about something difficult. But when we're staring ahead, walking or driving, they're fine to chat.
Yes,
very true.
That's brilliant. Yeah, because that's one of the key tools. Sometimes when you're talking to a teenager, they say talk to them in the car when you're not having to look at each other, and you can look out the window, and that's how you have some really key conversations. Yeah, very good.
We need to take we should treat our male partners the same. This has been really, really helpful and interesting. And before I let you guys go and ask for some sort of final tips of advice, we get a lot of women in our Facebook group in particular who say, how do you know when it's time to give up on a marriage or a relationship? And how do you know if it's actually, say, your hormones that are just making you perhaps hate your partner and not want to be near them? Like, how do you get to that decision? Because a lot of women are terrified that they could be making the biggest mistake of their life.
Yes, yeah. Well, I would say, it is about reflection. So really, thinking about how you feel, because we change, our needs change as well as we grow. So, how were you feeling about your partner when you first met? How are you feeling about them now? Why has that changed? Who are you now? Who were you then? What things have happened in your life externally, so out of the relationship, which might be causing some low mood or sadness, or, so systems around you, work, family, friends, how has that changed? You may have become a parent, you may be trying to become a parent, what stage of life are you in terms of that? Because, then you have the pressures of being a parent or trying to become, so that's weighs heavily on us sometimes. And what we also, try and incorporate feelings of our partner through. So really thinking about that, all of the external things as well as the internal, and communicating, as I say all the time, communicating with your partner and telling them how you're feeling. I always say in a non-directive way. So own your emotion and say, this is what I'm feeling right now. I'd like to tell you how I'm feeling. Not, you never talk to me anymore. You don't love me anymore. You never want to touch me. You don't look at me. None of that. If you are blaming your partner, they're just going to have their back up and they come back with another blame. And then you're in a cycle of tit for tat. Own your emotion, discuss how you're feeling, try and find a way forward together if you can. If all else fails, relationship counselor or relationship therapy. It's always a help. You don't have to wait until things are going bad in your relationship to see a relationship counselor. You can go at any time. A lot of people go just to maintain the good relationship, to make sure that they don't have any stumbling blocks along the way, because everyone does, but we need to know how to work through them together. Talk to your partner, talk to your friends and family if you need to, always find some support. Who is your support network? Talk to them as well. They can help with some solutions, some tools, some ways of communicating. But you might not want to talk to close family, say parents, sometimes, because sometimes you feel that you have to protect them from what's going on in your relationship. You don't want to worry them too much. And you'll know the friends and family who have very biased opinions and who can sort of sit on the fence and give it to you as it is. You need some truths, home truths as well. Some that can look at you and say, actually, you are being quite difficult at the moment, or that was very unreasonable. So that's important as well. Yeah. And remembering that all couples are different. So, social media nowadays, you go on social media and this person's husband has brought them flowers, this person's wife has brought them a car or whatever, and they're always going on lavish holidays or kissing in these pictures. Remember, we are often very clouded by that as well. So we're all different, and you only see the shiny bits of couples on social media. You never see the hard times.
Absolutely. I tell my kids that all the time. Yeah, they would, if they saw what all the negative stuff, they wouldn't follow.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think anybody would be on social media if they really knew what was going on in most people's lives.
Which would probably be a good thing. And Marvin, what about you? Any sort of final tips for anyone listening?
Final tips, definitely, I'd say find something that you enjoy when it comes to exercise. If you don't enjoy the process, you will not outlive the process. So you need to find something. Like Steph found her fitness through dance, something that we didn't know. She didn't know she was going to love it that much, and that now has just kept you on a pretty much working out every day of the week, just because she loves doing it. And because of that, and she found it later in life, and that was something that even I didn't discover with her. She discovered that herself. And I say to everybody, it's just a proven fact that if you do something you enjoy, you'll continue to do it. Also focus on not just what you are going to look like, focus on visualize the person you want to be. Whether that's not the aesthetic version of yourself, but just the entirety of who you want to be holistically as well.
I think that's brilliant advice. I love the idea of you dancing, Steph. I love dancing too, and I and I hate the gym. So yeah, we should have a
dance off.
Yeah, we'll have a double. You'll win. I'm rubbish. But look, this has been really brilliant, and I hope everyone's found it helpful. Now, for anyone who's listening, we'll put everything in our show notes. But where can they find out more about both of you? So, Marvin, first of all, yourself.
Yeah, you can find me on my website if you go to fitfreaks.tv. Follow my social media, Marvin Ambrosius. Very easy to find. I do online coaching services, mentorship. Just follow me. I'm always happy to give good tips, and I have a live class arena where you can actually join me. There's already 290 workouts on there, so if you had 3 days a week, that's 2 years worth of brand new exercise. So there's a lot on there now. It's really good. Got a lovely team on there.
Oh, fabulous. I'll have a look after. And Stephanie, where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, I've written this down because I'm not very active on social media because I just don't have the time a lot of the time. So I apologize, but I am on there. So SA Therapies _official on Instagram, and then SA Therapies on YouTube. So at SA Therapies.
Got a lovely show in there. So... really good show.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that show. Love is. Promote your show, Love is. Couples therapy show.
Yeah, talking to couples who are in successful relationships, what they feel is a successful relationship at the moment, and how they how they describe what love is. You know, their definition of love. And my website is satherapies.com, so you can find everything about me on there. And you can contact me via there. I'm working virtually at the moment, so I can work with anyone all over the world, couples and individuals, speaking about individual mental health and relationship stuff.
Oh, brilliant. Well, look, we'll put all that in the show notes so people can obviously contact you after listening to this, hopefully. But I really, really appreciate you both giving up your time today. Thank you so much. And for everyone listening, I really hope you found that helpful. And if you're struggling, do reach out and take some advice from these fabulous pair. Thanks so much for listening to the Latty Lounge podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, it would mean a lot if you could subscribe wherever you're listening so you don't miss an episode. And finally, before I go, I just wanted to remind you to check out the episode show notes for all our extra resources. You'll find links in there for our free Facebook group and our free symptom checker, so you can track your own symptoms against a list of the 34 most common symptoms of perimenopause and menopause. See our show notes for more. This podcast was sponsored by Silk Natural Lubricant and produced by Emily Crosby Media.